The most common kettlebell injury isn't what you think it is. It's not a dropped bell on a foot. It's not a shoulder tear from overhead pressing. It's not even a back injury from a swing gone wrong. The most common kettlebell injury is a forearm bruise. From the bell banging against your forearm during a clean. And do you know what that tells us? It tells us that the most common kettlebell injury is a technique problem, not a safety problem. And technique problems are entirely fixable before they become injuries. Is kettlebell training safe for beginners? The honest answer is more nuanced than a simple yes or no. And today I'm giving you the complete honest answer. Not the answer designed to make you feel good about buying a kettlebell. Not the answer designed to scare you into hiring a personal trainer. The actual answer, based on research, based on the specific risks that actually exist, and based on exactly what you need to know to make kettlebell training as safe as it can possibly be from your very first session. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to cover what the research actually says about kettlebell injury rates, the specific risks that are real versus the ones that are exaggerated, the 5 non-negotiable safety fundamentals every beginner must know, and the honest list of situations where you should consult a doctor before starting. But first, let me give you some context that reframes this entire question in a way most fitness content never does. Stay with me. Let's get into it. The context that reframes the entire safety question. Here's the question most people never think to ask when they're worried about whether kettlebell training is safe. Safe compared to what? Because here's the thing, every physical activity carries injury risk. Walking carries injury risk. Sitting at a desk for 8 hours carries injury risk, arguably more significant long-term risk than most exercise. The relevant question isn't, is there any risk? The relevant question is, does the risk of kettlebell training compare favorably to the benefits it provides? And does it compare favorably to the risks of the alternatives, including the risk of not training at all? Let's answer this with actual data. Research on exercise injury rates across different training modalities shows that kettlebell training, when performed with proper technique, has an injury rate of roughly 3 injuries per 1,000 hours of training. For context, running, which most people consider a safe, accessible exercise, has injury rates estimated between 2 and 8 injuries per 1,000 hours, depending on the population and the study. Traditional gym weight training with barbells and machines shows injury rates ranging from 2 to 6 per 1,000 hours. So where does this leave us? Kettlebell training, with proper technique, has an injury rate comparable to or lower than most other forms of exercise people consider standard and safe. The perception that kettlebells are particularly dangerous is not supported by the injury rate data. What the data does support is that technique matters significantly, and that the injuries that do occur in kettlebell training are predominantly technique-related, rather than inherent to the tool itself. This is actually good news. Because technique is teachable, technique is learnable, technique is within your control in a way that some injury risks in other sports simply aren't. Now let's talk about the actual risks that exist. The real risks versus the exaggerated ones. Real risk 1. Lower back strain from improper hip hinge mechanics. This is the genuine significant risk in kettlebell training for beginners. The swing, the foundational exercise, requires a proper hip hinge pattern. When this pattern is absent or incorrect, the lower back compensates by doing work it's not well suited to do, under the dynamic, repetitive loading of swings. Over time, this creates cumulative stress that can result in lower back strain. How real is this risk? Studies specifically examining kettlebell training injuries show that the lower back is the most commonly affected area, accounting for roughly 20 to 30% of reported injuries. This is a genuine risk that deserves genuine respect. How addressable is it? Completely, with proper instruction. The hip hinge is a learnable pattern. Every beginner can develop it with focused practice before adding significant load. The risk essentially disappears with correct technique. Real risk 2. Forearm bruising and minor skin irritation from cleans and snatches. This sounds minor, and it is minor. But it's the most commonly reported complaint from new kettlebell practitioners. When the clean or snatch technique isn't yet refined, the bell can bang against the forearm rather than rotating smoothly around the wrist. This is uncomfortable and can cause bruising with repeated occurrence. How real is this risk? Very common for beginners attempting these movements. Not a serious injury risk, but a source of discomfort that sometimes discourages people from continuing. How addressable is it? Completely with technique refinement. The solution is slowing down these movements, learning the proper rotation and hand insertion technique, and not progressing to high-rep cleans or snatches until the technique is refined. Real risk 3. Shoulder irritation from pressing with poor mechanics. Overhead pressing with any implement creates shoulder stress if the mechanics are incorrect. For kettlebell pressing specifically, the most common issue is pressing with insufficient shoulder stability, allowing the shoulder to shrug upward rather than remaining packed and stable throughout the movement. How real is this risk? Real, but moderate. Most beginners who develop shoulder irritation from pressing were pressing with weights that were too heavy before establishing the shoulder stability to handle them, or were pressing with mechanics that allowed the shoulder to shrug. How addressable is it? Completely by starting with appropriate weights, learning the proper packed shoulder position, and building pressing volume gradually. Exaggerated risk 1. Dropping the kettlebell on your foot. This is the mental image most non-practitioners have when they think about kettlebell danger. In practice, this is among the rarest kettlebell injuries. The exercises are designed to either keep the bell moving in a controlled arc, where it naturally goes away from your body, or to lower it deliberately. Accidental drops are uncommon in normal training. Exaggerated risk 2. Catastrophic shoulder or spine injury from normal practice. These injuries, while not impossible, are substantially rarer than the public perception suggests. The injury rate data supports this. Most kettlebell injuries are strains and bruises, not structural damage. The 5 non-negotiable safety fundamentals for beginners. Now that we understand the real risk landscape, let's talk about the 5 things that address those real risks directly. These aren't optional suggestions. These are the non-negotiable fundamentals that determine whether your kettlebell experience is safe or not. Safety Fundamental 1. Master the hip hinge before you swing. We've covered the hip hinge extensively in previous content, but its position as the first safety fundamental cannot be overstated. Before you perform a single swing with a kettlebell, you should be able to perform a proper hip hinge with your body weight alone, consistently, without coaching cues. The test: stand arm's length from a wall. Reach back and touch the wall with your fingertips while keeping your knees slightly bent and your back flat. If you can do this smoothly, your hip hinge is ready for the swing. If you're rounding your back or bending your knees excessively to reach the wall, spend more time on the pattern before adding weight. Most beginners need between 3 and 7 days of daily hip hinge practice before this pattern is reliable enough to add a kettlebell. This isn't a long time. It's a worthwhile investment before beginning. Safety Fundamental 2. Start with a weight that allows perfect form for every single rep. Here's the specific guidance that most beginners ignore because they feel they should be using more weight. Your starting weight should allow you to perform 20 swings with perfect form, where perfect means proper hip hinge, neutral spine, arms passive, and full hip extension at the top, without any noticeable form degradation in the final reps. If your form starts breaking down at rep 12, the weight is too heavy. Lower it until you can maintain perfect form for the full set. For most women new to kettlebell training, this means starting with 8 kilograms. For most men, 12 kilograms. These weights feel insultingly light to many beginners. That feeling is exactly why this fundamental is non-negotiable. The reason for this isn't just safety in the current session. It's that you're building movement patterns with every rep you perform. Bad form reps build bad movement patterns. Perfect form reps build perfect movement patterns. The patterns you build in your first weeks of training become the automatic defaults that your body uses even when you're tired or distracted. Starting light enough to build perfect patterns is an investment with compounding returns. Safety Fundamental 3. Learn the difference between productive discomfort and warning signals. This is the fundamental that beginners most commonly lack, and it's the one that most directly determines whether minor issues become serious injuries. Not all discomfort during kettlebell training is a warning sign. Some discomfort is a normal part of training, but some discomfort is your body communicating something you need to pay attention to. Productive discomfort includes muscular fatigue and burning during a set. the feeling that your muscles are working hard, general tiredness and breathlessness during higher rep sets or circuits, delayed onset muscle soreness, the achiness that typically appears 24 to 48 hours after a training session that your muscles weren't accustomed to, mild grip fatigue during sets that test grip endurance. Warning signals that mean stop immediately include sharp, localized pain anywhere, particularly in joints, pain that gets worse as a set continues rather than stabilizing. Any joint clicking accompanied by pain, pain that feels different from muscular fatigue, specifically pain that feels deep, hot, or joint-located rather than muscular. Lower back pain that is sharp or one-sided rather than the general muscular fatigue of working that area. The rule is simple. Muscular discomfort, continue with monitoring. Anything that feels sharp, hot, joint-located, or that worsens through a set, stop immediately. Safety fundamental 4. Never train to failure, especially as a beginner. Training to failure means continuing a set until you cannot physically perform another rep with any form whatsoever. This is a legitimate technique in some specific training contexts for experienced trainees. For beginners with kettlebells, it is a guaranteed path to injury. Here's why. The moment you reach true muscular failure, your form collapses. Your hip hinge becomes a squat. Your neutral spine becomes a rounded spine. Your passive arms start pulling desperately. This form collapse happens while you're still under load, which is exactly when injury risk is highest. The safety rule for beginners is to stop each set with at minimum 2 or 3 reps remaining before true failure. This means ending a set when the movement is still controlled and form is still intact, but you're noticeably fatigued. This leaves enough reserve that your movement quality is maintained through the final rep you perform. This approach also produces better results, because quality reps produce better adaptations than the ugly form-collapsed reps at true failure. Safety and effectiveness align here, which is fortunate. Safety fundamental 5. Allow adequate recovery between sessions and between sets. Your connective tissue, your tendons and ligaments, adapts to training stress more slowly than your muscles do. This creates a specific risk for motivated beginners. Your muscles might feel recovered and ready to train again within a day or two. Your tendons and ligaments might need 3 to 4 days to fully recover from the same session. Beginners who train too frequently, particularly beginners who feel fine and therefore assume they're recovered, often accumulate connective tissue stress faster than their bodies can repair it. This is a common mechanism for the overuse injuries that don't result from any single session, but from the cumulative pattern of insufficient recovery. The specific recommendation for beginners is 2 sessions per week for the first month, not 3. 2, with at minimum 2 days of rest between sessions. In month 2, progress to 3 sessions per week if recovery seems complete. This isn't being overly cautious. It's accounting for the reality that connective tissue adaptation lags behind muscular adaptation and needs time to catch up. Within sessions, rest between sets should be sufficient to allow your heart rate to recover and your form to reset. For beginners, this typically means 60 to 90 seconds between sets of swings, and up to 2 minutes between sets of more complex movements, like presses or get-ups. Rushing rest periods to make sessions feel more intense is a common beginner mistake that accumulates fatigue faster than it can be recovered from. The specific situations where you should consult a doctor first. Here is the honest list of conditions that warrant a conversation with your doctor before beginning kettlebell training. Not to get permission exactly, but to get specific guidance about any modifications that might be appropriate for your situation. Diagnosed cardiovascular conditions, heart disease, history of heart attack, irregular heart rhythms, or uncontrolled high blood pressure. Kettlebell training, particularly higher intensity swing work, creates significant cardiovascular demand. A doctor familiar with your specific cardiovascular situation is the appropriate person to advise on whether any modifications to intensity or progression are warranted. Recent or current significant musculoskeletal issues. Recent surgery, significant joint problems. Diagnosed disc issues in the spine. Unresolved significant injuries. None of these are automatic disqualifications. Many people with these histories train successfully with kettlebells, but the appropriate starting modifications depend on the specific condition and often benefit from medical guidance. Pregnancy. Exercise during pregnancy is generally beneficial and recommended, but the appropriate modifications to kettlebell training during different trimesters are specific enough to warrant guidance from your obstetric care provider. Significant obesity, not because kettlebell training isn't appropriate, but because the load your joints are managing is already substantial from your body weight, and starting conservatively and with appropriate exercise selection matters more in this context. If none of these apply to you, a standard healthy adult with no significant medical history doesn't typically need medical clearance before starting a conservative kettlebell training program as described in this video. Putting it all together, the Safe Beginner's First Month. Here's exactly what a safe first month of kettlebell training looks like, incorporating all 5 fundamentals and accounting for the real risks we've identified. Week 1 and 2. Practice the hip hinge pattern daily without weight. Add the goblet squat with light kettlebell. Add the kettlebell deadlift, which is essentially a hip hinge picking up the bell from the floor, as the bridge between the pattern practice and the swing. 2 sessions per week, no swings yet. Week 3. Add swings, start with 10 swings per set. 3 sets, 2 sessions this week. Focus entirely on maintaining perfect form for every rep. If form degrades, stop the set. The weight should be light enough that form degradation isn't occurring. Week 4. Increase to 15 swings per set. 4 sets, still 2 sessions this week. If form is consistently excellent, add 1 pressing movement, either floor press or a standing press, depending on your shoulder mobility. Keep it to 2 to 3 sets of 8 reps. By the end of month 1, you've established the hip hinge pattern, built 2 weeks of swing practice, and introduced 1 pressing movement. You've done this safely because you've followed the sequence, started light, never trained to failure, allowed adequate recovery, and paid attention to the distinction between productive discomfort and warning signals. This isn't slow, it's the pace that builds sustainable, injury-free training. The alternative, jumping in with heavy swings and multiple exercises immediately, might feel more impressive in week 1. It's also responsible for most kettlebell beginner injuries, which are concentrated in the first 4 to 8 weeks of training before technique is established. Your action plan. Here's what I want you to do before your first kettlebell session, or if you've already started, before your next session. Practice the hip hinge wall test I described. If you can do it consistently, you're ready for swings. If you can't, spend 3 days practicing the pattern before adding a kettlebell. If you haven't bought a kettlebell yet, choose 8 kilograms if you're a woman who hasn't been training, or 12 kilograms if you're a man who hasn't been training. I know this seems light. Start there anyway, you can always progress up. You can't undo the injury patterns built from starting too heavy. If you have any of the conditions I listed in the medical consultation section, make that call before your first session. It's a brief conversation that could make the difference between a training program that helps your condition and one that inadvertently aggravates it. If you're starting your kettlebell journey and you're committed to doing it safely, drop a comment saying, "Starting safe." Let's build a community of beginners who take the foundation seriously, because the foundation determines everything that comes after. And if you want detailed, week-by-week beginner programs with specific safety progressions built in, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Is kettlebell training safe for beginners? Yes, with the nuance that safety isn't automatic. It results from understanding the real risks, applying the 5 non-negotiable fundamentals, starting with appropriate weights and frequency, and paying attention to what your body is communicating throughout. The injury rate data supports kettlebell training as comparable to or safer than most other forms of exercise people consider standard. The tool isn't the risk, the approach is what determines safety, and you now know exactly what the safe approach looks like. I'll see you in the next video. Now go practice that hip hinge.